Oh, I think we're live. Is it
I,
working?
yeah,
I
it
have
is.
no idea. Welcome. Hi, welcome to the Lizard Brain Support Group. This is a new thing for us. We're broadcasting live on Facebook, and we'll put this on an audio only version on the podcast site as well. But welcome to the support group. First time. My name is Ken Falkenhagen. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a professionally certified anything, but Keri Weber is here with us. Hi, Keri. Keri
Hi.
is on her way to being several of those things, I think.
Yes, you are correct, Ken. Thank you. I am currently a clinical mental health student, just finishing up, just doing my internship, and I'll be done.
How much longer do you have? You're just this year?
Yeah, that's it. And then I'll actually graduate. I have to do some work through the summer and everything like that. So I'll actually graduate in December.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So Keri, you'll remember from episode 1, she was wonderful, kicked off the whole thing, and we thought we would get together to just talk about, well, first of all, I miss support group. I miss my support group. I miss my group therapy. And this is a way to sort of bring that to you live on Facebook. I don't know who's going to show up, but if it's just you and me, that's okay too. Um, yeah. So I want to start. We're gonna talk about how we're feeling during this time of quarantine and coronavirus and scary and this what they called a slow motion disaster. I have an article I want to read from just for a quick second, if that's okay. From Mother Jones, the mental health effects of coronavirus are a slow motion disaster. You've heard of SAMHSA? Is that how you pronounce it, Keri? Um,
Santa?
SAMHSA, SAMHSA, I'm finding it. It's the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. They run the National Suicide Prevention Line, and they do a national helpline for substance abuse. But they also run what's called the Disaster Distress Helpline. And this helpline is specifically for calls and texts for people who are experiencing some sort of natural disaster. Um, Hurricanes, tornadoes, what else do we have? Floods, wildfires, like out in California, and in this case, pandemics. The helpline run by SAMHSA answered 7,000 calls in March and 19,000 text messages just in March alone, which is 8 times as many as they did the previous month back in February. It's also 3 times as many of calls and texts that they received in August and September of 2017 combined. And 2017 we had Hurricane Harvey in Texas. There was flooding in Louisiana. It was Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, and there was another one in Florida. So 4 hurricanes in space of 2 months, and this has gotten 8 times as many calls. It feels different, and it is, says Roxanne Cohen Silver, a professor of psychological science, medicine, and public health at the University of California. It's an invisible threat. We don't know who's infected, and anyone could infect us. It's an ambiguous threat. We don't know how bad it will get, and we don't know how long it will last. And it's a global threat. No community is safe. And we just, those of us with depression and anxiety, that ambiguity, that uncertainty, and with this, you can jump in here, Keri. When we think we got a handle on it, something new comes up. There's new deaths, there's new cases, there's new orders from the government. We just got told yesterday or the day before we got to wear masks in public. That's hard to jump back and forth and keep that all straight, isn't it?
I agree 100%. It's to the point where I have a little bit of an alert on my phone that lets me know when there's a big news story or something like that in the area, right?
Yeah.
That alert kept going off constantly. And every time it was like a jolt to my system. And I thought, this isn't healthy at all. And I eventually turned that off because I don't think it's healthy.
Right.
It didn't feel good. And I couldn't, what I want to say I lost my groove in the sense of everything I was trying to accomplish. You know, I'm trying to finish up my grad studies, and I was constantly distracted by what was going on in the world because there was something new. And I get out of that whole mode, and it was just a terrible thing. And I thought, man, if you're currently suffering from any sort of a mental health issue and to have to deal with all of this on top of it,
Right.
that has got to be rough. Because I know, just thinking about my own issues with depression and everything like that, this would be a very challenging situation to work through. And I think it's wonderful that therapists are currently working online. I think that people
Oh yeah.
can reach out for help, and I highly recommend that people reach out for help. Um, you might be able to work through things in the comfort of your home, and I think it's a good idea to talk to somebody, because
And
this
there
is
are,
definitely a huge challenge.
yeah, and it's not even your personal therapist. Maybe your personal therapist isn't tech savvy and isn't able to do it, but there are apps, there are text numbers. Sit down at the Google machine and Google talk, therapy through text or therapy app, and you'll find, I know nobody sponsors them, so I'm not going to say any names, but any of those services are available to you now, and they're doing a booming business for sure.
Absolutely. And even locally, if you are in the local area, there are many therapists that have taken their private practices and they've put them online.
Yeah.
And all you have to do, reach out to them. You can probably call them at their normal office numbers and get information on how to go about getting in touch with them and setting up an appointment. There are many out there doing this, though. I have seen quite a few of my therapist friends posting that they are now online. So, and it's acceptable. And in Pennsylvania, doing online therapy was not something that was allowed. Our insurance companies don't go for that sort of thing, but they've made an exception during this crisis. And your insurance, that's fine. They'll work with you on that. But again, it is temporary. But we're kind of hoping that it opens up the door for more of this later in the future. Because if you think about it, this is kind of nice to be able to be online. For some people, it's hard to leave the house. So to be able to have your therapy right at your fingertips,
Absolutely.
it's
And people
fantastic.
who have busy lives and kids and parents to take care of and who knows what else, that's a good option for those of us who are on the go.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. And like the article said, um, look at the significant increase, people reaching out for help. I know people that are very calm in their everyday lives who are totally thrown off by this. So there's no shame. Reach out, get help. It's
Yeah.
important.
Caitlin on the Facebook says, the Facebook, I'm so old, the Facebook, says teletherapy is great, especially right now. I've been so thankful for mine. My therapist said that I'm trying to read this one. My therapist said that even if my insurance won't cover it, she will not worry about it. Her patients are her priority. So look for those folks they may even do it on a sliding scale based on your income.
Yeah,
There's all those options out there for you. Um,
absolutely. And there are a lot of therapists, they like to do that. Ethically speaking, we are taught and encouraged through like the American Counseling Association to offer services like that, to try to cut people a break, because we do recognize that mental health is very important and not all insurance companies will cover that, and not everybody has insurance. So
that's true too.
don't be
Um,
afraid to ask.
and not only folks who have underlying mental health issues are suffering. Going back to the article a little bit, the Kaiser Family Foundation just put out a poll. This is separate from the article, though. They say 45% of people say their mental health has been affected by the coronavirus, by the quarantine. 19% say it's had a major impact on their lives. And that's similar to numbers from, they did a study of folks who were in Hong Kong back in 2003 during their SARS epidemic, and they were quarantined very similar to us. Masks and essential businesses were shut down, shelter in place orders, and they were sheltered from about mid-March to mid-June. And they said nearly half of their surveyed residents say the experience weighed on their mental health. 16% showed signs of post-traumatic stress disorder 6 months after the outbreak. So even folks who are not normally susceptible to depression, anxiety, those mental health struggles that someone like me struggles with every day. My wife, for example, again, doesn't struggle with this stuff, but last week that transition to working at home and the transition to not going out and all of those things that were, I guess, taken away from her really affected her last week. So and she doesn't have those underlying issues. So this is a wider spread problem than our normal, 18% of us that are anxious all the time.
Oh, absolutely. I think I read an article recently that talked about the importance of viewing this time and well, I should say this. The reason why people are struggling with this is that it is a loss. It is something almost like somebody has died. You have lost a portion of your life that you were comfortable with. And if you think about the stress of, for instance, starting a new job or moving to a new home or a new city or whatever it might be, there's significant stress that's involved with that, even though it might be beneficial in some ways. There's a certain sense of loss. And I think that it's important that you mourn that you don't just ignore it and push that away. I think you have to really sit there and say, wow, look at what has happened that I can no longer do. Not only does it give you good perspective on the situation, but it helps you to recognize what you value in your life that you would like to carry over after this is over with.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, there are very positive things that can come from this, and not to make light of the situation. But if you look through history, anytime there has been some sort of a crisis, there's always something that's good that can come out of it. There's always at least a person who achieved something amazing because they had the right attitude about it. Or there's a discovery, or there's a whole different mindset change. And I feel that people are going to take things, they're not going to take things for granted as much.
Right.
Because
and this is an opportunity to sort of step back and only let things back into your life when this all blows over in end of this month, end of next month, whenever it happens, to sort of survey what's coming back into your life. And is this something that I want to do?
Yeah.
If I really enjoy teleworking and I go back to a job where I'm stuck in a cubicle and I hate my coworkers, maybe that's an impetus for me to find something else where teleworking is possible. And I know a lot of companies don't do that, but I think we're going to see a big change in the economy, a big change in, and this is scary for some people, but that big sea change in the way we work, the way we learn, the way we access our medical care. I think we're in for a major shift.
I see that. I think it's very beneficial in some ways. These are all positive things. And you mentioned the job situation. Look at the way some employers have treated their employees throughout this. They have been
right.
horrible, or they've been so fabulous.
They've been wonderful. Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
I'll do a shout out. They're not a sponsor, but if they'd like to be, Pet Supplies Plus. My daughter, my 19-year-old, is working. They have limited hours because they're a pet store and they're an essential business. You got to keep the pets alive. And, she's there and they're providing hand sanitizer and masks and gloves and all of this. And they're giving her a $2 or $3 an hour raise. And, she's so happy to be a part of a team that's working through this, where we've seen lots of stories now. Hobby Lobby, Scott Enterprises. I'm trying to think of the other that have cut insurance benefits, that have just sacked workers and left them wanting. And this is a good opportunity to see if your employer aligns with your values.
Well, that's it. The employers are in a difficult situation themselves, but yet you can still do something helpful for your employees.
Yeah, for sure.
Rock them, And so I think it really does speak volumes when you see somebody who is helping out their employees. I've seen even small businesses letting their employees know, I'm going to take care of you. That makes for excellent employees because they see that their employer has their back. So that could create a very good situation when the economy gets going again,
Yeah.
because those employees are going to work hard for their employer because they took care of them.
Right. And the other point from this article, well, let me go back to talking about loss. Let me button up that point. Is you posted something on Facebook a couple of days ago that I thought was interesting. You can mourn these things, but also see the positive in them.
Yeah.
No, my thesis today going into this was no matter what you're feeling, I'm doing this for you because you're writing papers like crazy. My thesis today has been whatever you're feeling, whatever you're doing to cope with those to a point, it's all okay. Whether you're feeling great about this, we talked a little bit before how I'm in a pretty good situation and you're in a pretty good situation. There are others that aren't, but you know, I'm feeling a little okay about this whole thing. And that's okay to feel that way. It's okay to be completely depressed or completely anxious or whatever. If you got to eat an extra sleeve of cookies to get through at the end of the night, that's okay too. Whatever you're doing, you're okay. And
Absolutely.
and you said that the thing you posted, going back to that, sorry, you said that you can be grateful for having extra time with family and friends, but you can also be miserable that you have to spend all this time with your family and friend. Like there are days that I want my family to go away, and they're stuck in the house with me, 800 square feet, and there's 4 of us. Yeah.
Exactly. That's it. There's so many mixed emotions here, and people are looking for the one right way to feel. There
Oh,
isn't one.
yes.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do. So you have to just be you, and it's okay to feel a variety of emotions because this is so new. And think of any other normal situation in life that would be new to you. For instance, well, let's go back to you talking about jobs. If you started a new job, don't you have a little bit of anxiety when you go to that job? You don't know exactly what it's going to be like, who you're going to meet, what the expectations are, what your boss is going to do that day, how they're going to treat you. There's a lot of different things that factor into that first day at a new job,
Yeah.
right? And we don't sit there and expect ourselves to be a certain way. We accept the fact that we're a little anxious and it's our first day, but we'll get through it. And so I think that the same thing applies here. We're all a little nervous. That's okay. We're going to get through this. Do
Yeah.
what you can to help yourself.
Yeah. And the work thing, it's a transition from work to home. My wife's doing the same exact job, but all of a sudden she's doing it in her craft room at home. It's a big transition. I think about all my teacher friends. I come from an education background. All of these teachers that now have to shift with no training, no warning, to teaching online. And I think about the folks in the city schools where kids don't have access to technology and they don't have books at home and they don't have material. How hard it must be to do that job now. If you're struggling with that job and you're struggling with that transition, it's okay.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you're struggling means you're trying. And the fact that you're trying means you're doing everything you can. If all your, again, something I saw on Facebook, if all your kids aren't turning in their homework, you're still doing the job. If you can't get all of your PLCs and all your professional development done and all your papers written and you're still doing the job
Yeah,
to the best of your ability, whatever that looks like to you.
I agree. And that's all you can ask. That's it. People are putting a tremendous amount of pressure on themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of one of the big things about this is that people have the way they have thought has gotten them into trouble with this because I think it's a line that Shakespeare had said in Hamlet that nothing is either good or bad, but it's thinking about it is what makes it so.
Mm.
And so if you think something is good or you think something is bad, you're right, because what you do to yourself and your mind is how you end up reacting to that thing. And so you could sit here and you can say, okay, I'm not allowed to go out and about and do my normal thing, but what can I do? And you could find a variety of projects: clean your house, do your dishes, write papers, whatever it is that you do in your life. Try to do something at home, or the things that you've never had time for, do those
Yeah.
things. There's plenty to do. But if you get caught up in the trap of, this is a very bad situation and woe is me and my whole life is gone and crumbling, then you're going to run into issues, because honestly, if we do that to ourselves on just a normal daily basis, we have issues. So during this more stressful period, that only amplifies things.
Right.
So I think that it's important to get your mind in the right place, and that can take a while. And I know personally that when this whole thing started, it made me step back for a second, and I thought, wow, this is unreal. I never in my lifetime imagined that something like this would happen, and that I would be concerned about breathing the air in the grocery store.
Right.
I never once considered that that would ever happen. And I started to think about it, and think about it a little more and a little too much. And that took me down a bad path. And I pulled myself right back from that and thought, no, don't do that. Because the mind, what you tell your mind, or let your mind tell you, I should say, plays a huge part in how well you feel. The mental narrative, all right, your story that's going on, it's not real. It's just in your mind, okay? So sitting here worrying about it right now is not going to make things change in the world. It's not going to help me in any way whatsoever. It's not going to help anybody. I would be better off trying to sew masks. I would be better off trying to somehow or another contribute to my community by delivering groceries. I would be better off finding other ways to spend my time than sitting here worrying and making myself sick. And you have to be kind to yourself about that. Don't yell at yourself and say, I should be doing this, as we've talked before.
We don't want to shit all over ourselves.
Right. No shitting on ourselves.
You said, spend your time making masks or delivering meals, but it doesn't even have to be as
no
philanthropic as that. Like some of us, I do. Some people don't have access to material and all of those things. But you know what? If you go out, I'm learning how to juggle. I've spent an hour a day for the last week learning how to juggle clubs. It's just something to fill the time and keep from worrying about those things that you can't control. You can't control how many people are going to go out and flood Walmart with germs. I rail on Walmart way too much.
So do I.
So focus on the things you can control, and it can be self-improvement. Go for a walk every day. Start your meditation practice. There's nothing but time. One of my dear friends, Leah, said, the prioritization is moot. And I've lived with that since sort of day one of this thing. I posted something about how I felt like I had all this stuff I had to do, and I couldn't make sense of what I should do first. And she said, we're stuck in the house for a month and a half. Do whatever. Just you have the time. If you've been saying I can't meditate for 10 minutes a day before now, if you can't find it now, I shouldn't say that. There are people out there who are working 12-hour days, first responders and nurses and those people. I come from a place of privilege on that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I understand. I think, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, Caitlin says she's been playing Animal Crossing way too much. And Steve says, it's hard to stop those cascading feelings once the mind starts going. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the reason I picked up the clubs. And that's part of the reason I've spent so much time out in the yard is the idle hands are a devil's plaything. My mind starts racing if I'm not focusing on something else.
I agree. I think one of the strategies here to get through this is to try to have some sort of a daily schedule of things that you're going to accomplish. And I literally mean sit down and write yourself a schedule, okay? Because if you just say, well, I'm going to do this today and that, I guess, you might not do it. But if
Right.
you set a schedule for yourself and say, okay, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to exercise first thing in the morning. Then I'm going to take a little time to get on Facebook, see what's going on in the world, drink my coffee. I'm going to go outside and start some of the yard work. I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going to sit down and do a puzzle. You know, this is my life lately.
Right.
And then
Right.
I'm
And
going
then,
to write a ton of papers.
but
Yeah,
that's okay. But that's okay. Sitting down and doing a puzzle is certainly, Steve says a schedule has helped me. Just doing a puzzle, it's okay. We have so much time. Don't get down on yourself if you're not saving the world, or you're not writing a paper, or you're I've been working on this project in the bathroom. We're putting up some trim in the bathroom, and I've spent like the last 6 days staining this wood when it would normally take me like an hour. Like, I just space it out. I'm going to do a little today and a little tomorrow and a little, because what else am I going to do for 40 days?
I agree. And that's the thing too. I've noticed that a lot of the things that I'm doing are very much like that, and that I'm spacing everything out. I actually am having a hard time focusing for too long on anything.
Yeah.
So I do a little bit and then I say, okay, that's enough. My brain doesn't want to do anymore. I get up and do something else. So be it. It's
Yeah.
all right.
And some days, ADD mind over here. Some days you just have to go with that. I'm gonna get a half an hour of this done, and then I got to change change what I'm doing, and I got to get up and move, and I got to do whatever. Some days you can focus and get in that flow for 3 or 4 hours on a project, and ride those waves when you can. But there's no right and wrong answers. That's the answer. There is no
Exactly.
answer.
Yeah, I think you need to do you. Feel good the way you can feel good. What works
Abs-
for me isn't going to necessarily work for you.
Yeah. The other thing I like about setting a schedule is it gets rid of decision fatigue. I
Yeah.
struggle, I struggle in the morning, especially in the morning, with wanting to do anything. I wake up and I'm groggy and I'm tired, and all of those things that I'd mentally planned to do that day are like, I'm too tired to do that. Oh, I don't feel well. I'm not right. But if it's written down, I know that I'm getting up at 8 and I'm taking a shower and I'm doing this thing. And I don't have to force my brain to make those decisions at 8 in the morning, which my brain doesn't want to do at 8 in the morning.
I agree. And I think going along with that, it's the whole idea of being intentional with what you choose to do. Don't just
Mm,
leave, throw caution to the wind and let the day just play out. If you have that schedule, you're being very intentional. If you decide today that one of your goals is to sit on the couch in your pajamas and watch movies, do it.
that was Wednesday. I
See, it's
gave
great.
myself permission to do it.
Yeah, I did that yesterday and it was wonderful. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, but it was intentional. It wasn't because I decided to be lazy, because here's the problem with that. If I had plans to do a whole bunch of things and then I just sat on the couch and did nothing, I'm going to feel awful about myself. It's going to pull me down mentally and physically. But if I decided, today I'm wearing my pajamas, today I'm just going to chill out, then that's fantastic. But I'm going to tell you something. I think there's something to be said about getting up each day and getting yourself dressed, even though you don't have to go out. You know what I mean? Because it puts you, well, you're all together and you feel better about yourself, and there's even a physical boost to that when you get yourself dressed and you're looking halfway civilized, right?
I,
And
I
so,
have that about shoe. For me, it's about the shoes. If I put on shoes, I know I have to get up and do something.
yeah. And so, whatever your thing is, try to not let that go unless you're intentional about it and you say, I'm going to go sit on the couch in my pajamas and watch movies today because that's what I need. But
Right.
if you make that what you do every single day, I fear that that's not good for your mental health. I
Right.
think
Well,
that
it's
it's
not
too easy to
if
slide.
even when we're not in a pandemic, that's not good for your mental health. Coming home from work and sitting down in front of Animal Crossing, I don't know what Animal Crossing is, and playing that all day, like,
Yeah,
again, everything in moderation, including moderation.
absolutely.
Um, Michael on Facebook. By the way, we're on Facebook Live. It's working. We have people watching. Hi, everybody who's watching. Feel free to ask questions as we go along. We're just filling the time until we get good questions. Michael says on Facebook, the media loves to report on plane crashes. Some of the people on Facebook are panicking and trying to take others with them. Sometimes it's best to ignore the negatives. And I think that kind of goes to maybe limiting some time on social media. Social media is a great way to connect, and we're doing it in a positive way here, I hope. But sometimes it's doom and gloom. And again, it's those alerts on your phone that come every 5 minutes that something new and scary is happening.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because I think that even if you don't buy into some of the hype, it still plays with your mind, and it's still there, and it sits, and you wonder about it and you think. And again, that's where we get into that terrible mental narrative where you are creating stories or different scenarios in your mind and getting yourself overly worried and overly concerned when you can't do anything about it anyway. And I think that the key here is to do what you can. Take care of yourself. You can take care of yourself, you can take care of your family, but you can't control what's happening in the world right now.
Right. Caitlin says she's muted words on her Twitter feed to clean it up and make it healthy for her. I don't know what words she's deleted. Says too bad Facebook doesn't allow me. It doesn't allow an individual to do that. I don't.
I agree. I'll tell you what though, I love on Facebook, the unfollow feature
Oh
is
yes,
wonderful. Oh,
yes.
because there are some people that that's just their personality and it's what they want to do. And I still want to remain friends with them and I like them as people. But I don't like what's happening right now in terms of what they're posting. I'm on Facebook for the memes. I love the
Yeah.
memes. I think they're great. But otherwise, when things get going down the wrong direction and that's all I'm seeing in my feed,
This,
there are
this,
certain people I've had to just unfollow because it doesn't help me any and it's not why I'm there.
or there's a snooze button too, which is nice. You can snooze them for 30 days if they're on a particularly. The snooze button is your friend. I've snoozed a few people.
I agree.
Um, Morgan says nobody has been slowing down on shopping at Walmart. It's only slightly stressful. I know Morgan personally. Do you know Morgan from the
Morgan.
theater community? Morgan Brundage. Maybe I shouldn't have said her last name. Nobody's been slowing down on shopping at Walmart. She works at Walmart as one of those personal
Yeah.
shoppers. It's only slightly stressful because they don't give us masks. So there's an example of maybe an employer that's not providing. Um, one of the things that you talked about early that I feel okay about this. We talked about this before we went on Facebook, and I wanted to read something from a listener. They called themselves Meowie91. Go fig. So basically having to work from home and not go out and socialize has given my mind and body a much needed break. Working from home means I don't have a lot of the job related anxiety that makes me dread Sundays and Mondays. I'm able to save on the 2 hours of commute and have a lot more free time. Not having to wake up early means I get 8+ hours of sleep every night. I didn't realize how much lack of sleep has affected my mood. So schedule that sleep in. Schedule your 8 hours. And if you need a nap in the afternoon, go ahead. Take a nap. I did this afternoon. It was glorious. Not going out means I no longer have to worry about my IBS related stomach problems. I no longer feel pressured to socialize. So again, at the bottom, they say, I appreciate that this is a hard time for most and don't deny what people are going through. I got lucky because I have a very stable job and it's just my husband and I at home. And I'm in a very similar situation. I'm on unemployment and financially we're making it work just fine. My wife's working from home. It's just we've got a couple of college kids who are eating us out of house and home. but other than that, I'm doing okay with this. And one of the things Caitlin said in the chat was that she was feeling guilty. Caitlin says, I feel guilty to feel depressed and overwhelmed by this situation. I'm so fortunate to be able to work from home, still have my job, to have a shelter and be able to care for myself. But yet, like, how do you stop feeling guilty for having what you have? My wife is working, I'm not, and she's here all day and I'm just puttering around the house. I feel guilty about that. How do I fix my problem, Keri? Fix me.
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's the thing, we're all different in how we approach this. And like we've just talked, we've lost a lot of things. So there is that sense of mourning, losing your job or whatever it might be. There's a lot of loss that's involved there, but making yourself feel guilty because somebody else is working while you're sitting around enjoying yourself.
Doing some things.
Sure. No. I think that that's not anything other than what you're doing to yourself. That is your mental narrative. There it is. You're telling yourself these things. So listen, it's not your fault that you can't work.
Right.
Okay. So why would you think then that your wife would feel upset because you don't get to work right now?
But the answer is because I feel guilty about everything. Like everything is, that's the way my anxiety is. Everything is my fault, whether it's my fault or not.
And I think that that's something worth exploring, but that's not anything related to the fact that you're sitting at home and she's working.
No, it has nothing to do with that. I got anxious today. It's always, they call it the next to next thing. And you're never anxious or upset about the thing. It's always a layer or two deeper. And I don't know what it was I had a little bit of a panic this afternoon. My wife went to the store. She went and bought groceries for the day, and she was unloading the groceries into the house and I was putting them away. And sort of the speed that she was throwing groceries at me and loading them onto the floor, and I couldn't keep up. And all of a sudden I was like, whoa. I felt overwhelmed. And it was food, and it was, okay, was there enough food at the store, and how much money did we spend, and how, like, it's always two or three things deeper. I don't know where I was going with that, but it's never the thing. So when I say I'm feeling guilty that my wife's working, it's not about my wife working and me not working. It's not about COVID at all.
There's more to it.
It's the personal relationship between my wife and I that it's a much, wow, I could be a therapist. It's a much deeper thing than just that surface thing that may have set off my panic this afternoon.
I agree. And I'll tell you something that really helps, and it depends on, if this is your style or not, but I find there are things that I do that to myself on as well, that I make myself feel very guilty over, or I feel like I'm a burden to somebody, right?
Like what?
Oh gosh, well, let's just use right now, this time where I am at home all day long.
Yeah.
And granted, I'm getting to work my graduate assistantship from home, so I'm still being paid and I'm still doing all of my schoolwork. There are certain things that have affected my income that I can't do, like how I teach private voice and piano lessons.
Oh, yeah.
I'm obviously not doing that anymore. But I feel guilty as though I am not contributing enough in my household because I am home. So what do? I spend a significant amount of time trying to clean or cook or do the laundry to prove that I'm worthy and to prove that I am contributing, right?
I find myself starting to worry about dinner about 1:30, 2 o'clock every day, going, oh, I got to start making dinner. No, it's only 2 o'clock. I got plenty of time. And I'm so used to having, again, my wife walks in the door from work at 5 o'clock, and it's like, if I can, I'm generally going to have dinner ready or on the way. I cook, she cleans. That's our arrangement. And like, even now when she gets off of work at 4, I'm like, okay, dinner's not ready at 4 o'clock. What's going on? There's that anxiety about that when she's like, I'm not hungry now. I'll eat whenever I want to eat. Like,
Right.
again, thinking about a set schedule for her, it's a little more lax than maybe I would like.
I agree. I have the same situation. There's no expectation on me to have the dinner ready at a certain time or to have certain things accomplished
There's a,
around the
there's
house.
an expectation in my head. There's not an
Oh, yeah,
expectation from anybody else that I think there's an expectation from.
I agree. And that's exactly why I sit down and I write. I journal about all of this. And I just
Yeah.
word vomit on a piece of paper and just spew out everything that I'm feeling, the guilt that I might have that creeps in, why I'm upset that, I am at home and I'm not doing my usual routine. So the same thing for you. Write about why you think that might be, or just start spewing out words. I feel very guilty because here I am sitting at home all day while my wife does X, Y, and Z. And I feel for some reason that is less than what she does.
Right.
Okay. And then it's important to make note of what you are doing. So you've already said that you started doing some work around your house. There are things that you are doing that you're contributing to. Look, you're doing your podcast stuff. You have
Yeah.
actually been working on your lizard brain page for a while on your Facebook. You have been very good about making daily posts. There are lots of things where you're reaching out and helping others. You are making a contribution. I think it's important that we all recognize the things that we do accomplish, even though it might be different right now. So the person who is not employed and they're sitting at home on the couch in their pajamas all day long, I would say, you know what? Good for you. You got up this morning. You got yourself out of bed and you made it to the couch.
Right.
Let's try to switch to a different couch. Let's try to get dressed the next day. Maybe we'll try getting a shower. And I do mean that. And it
Yeah.
sounds
Right.
silly, but just small little things. And recognize, gee, I feel so awful. If that's your experience, recognize it. And then congratulate yourself for the fact that even though you felt awful, you got a shower and you tried. You did something intentionally. And that's the key. I keep going back to that. Create the schedule because it's intentional. Whatever you choose to do each day, that makes you feel so much better when it's intentional and you've accomplished something. We all need a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
That's what will help you to feel good. And you'll probably feel less guilty if you have things planned and you accomplish them.
Yeah. And again, there's a bit of a balance. If you're going to spend 3 hours doing yard work, it's okay to watch 3 episodes of Game of Thrones at the,
Or
at the end of the
four.
day, or 4. We're in the middle of season 3, and I'm still a little lost as to who's who. Like, people come on the screen and I'll go, "Who's that?"
Yeah.
We have no idea who anybody is. They're fighting. Nothing's happening. There's supposed to be more at the end of season 1. It never came. Like, come on, Game of Thrones. A couple of thoughts here. Let me go back to the comments. Thank you, everybody who's commenting. Um, Here's one, and I don't know what. Well, actually, let me button up the other point. Is, you were saying that what that there's this feeling that what I'm doing is less, or what you're doing is less than my partner. Again, that's a bigger issue because I always feel that way. Even if I was going to my regular job 9 to 5 and working working an 8-hour shift, there's something different between checking people in at a hotel, which is my day job, and, you know, helping people see and get jobs and read and all of these things that my wife does. Like, so again, it's not just this particular situation. It's helping us sort of peel the layers of the onion back and get at those deeper issues.
Absolutely. You have to recognize your own value in whatever you do.
Yeah.
What you do in your work, Ken, is important because without
Allegedly.
you, it is. Because think about it. If we didn't have people like you, look what we would miss.
What would we miss? I missed that. I think that was What would be okay?
You have to
You're
think about
turning
it.
into a therapist. Last time we just had a nice conversation, and now you're making me think, and
I'm sorry.
you're making me do the work. I don't want to do the work.
I understand. It's a rough go. Therapy is hard.
How dare you? Um, Caitlin says, I needed to hear that, Keri. Need to be living intentionally. Um, Alexis writes, how do you get yourself motivated to do work/homework when you're working at home? I find myself checking my phone every 5 minutes for no reason. How are you? Okay. How are you at that? Are you good at that? You post on Facebook all the time, so I know you're not writing papers all the time.
Yeah. Well, just like I had mentioned earlier, I am having a hard time focusing a lot right now. So I am guilty of also texting and being on Facebook uh, way more than what I had been before. Okay. And that's just how it is for me right now. It's how I'm coping and dealing. My brain won't let me focus very much. So I know I do have to accomplish my work. I do have to get these papers written. There are deadlines, and I do not want to fail. I care about my grades. So I do accomplish everything. But here's the deal, I allow myself to have lots of breaks throughout the day. I sit there and I write until my brain says, you know what, that was a really good thought. Let's take a break now. You've used up a lot of time. Let's go get a quarantine snack
Yeah.
and enjoy the outside, go out and breathe some clean air and look at the sun. And then I come back and I write a little more. And I have it in my head that maybe in 20 to 30 minutes, I'm going to be right back outside, or I'm going to jump on Facebook, whatever it is. But I have told myself I'm going to work in 20 to 30-minute increments, and then I'm going to take a break and do whatever I want.
Right.
And if I feel like I am finished for the day and can't possibly write another paper, I'm not going to. And how's that going to affect my grade? Well, maybe it won't be as good as it always was in the past, but at this point, I really don't care. It is not my top priority right now. Taking care of me is the main concern. And so my only way of coping and dealing right now is to do it this way, because otherwise it's not going to get done. So I really recommend do just a tiny chunk, because if you tell yourself, I'm only going to sit down for 20 to 30 minutes,
And
and then
set
you
time.
get up, yeah,
This
do
is an
it.
ADD trick. Set a timer. Set
Yes,
set a
yes.
30-minute timer, and every 30 minutes your phone goes off and you can get up and grab a snack or go to the
Right.
bathroom or check your Facebook, and then after 5 minutes you're back to work, or
I'm
whatever time
actually
frame makes
treating
sense for you.
myself. Yeah, I'm treating myself as if I do have ADD, because that's how I feel right now. Okay.
Yeah.
And do that. And again, it's being intentional. I'm not just being a slacker with my work. I am saying I'm going to work for 20 to 30 minutes, and then I'm taking a break. And then I'm going to come back and work for another 20 to 30 minutes. And then I'm going to take another break. Be intentional with that as well, and you'll feel okay, because the guilt creeps in on things like this when you put the pressure on yourself to sit there all day and write your papers in one sitting. Okay, don't do
Right.
that. Be intentional about it.
Right. There's a I also have a different gear that I work in sometimes. There's the I got to get this done and I need 100% focus on this thing. And then there's sort of the half, it's not a half-ass gear, but it's a half a gear. Yeah, I'm going to work on this thing, but I'm going to have the TV on in the background, and I might, you know, I'm just going to, sometimes I just need to get into the flow of doing something, and then it turns into that hyper focus, that hour of hyper focus. And I've been reading about behavioral activation. I want your thoughts on that. But the idea of just doing it, no matter how you feel about it, at that half-ass speed for a little bit, sometimes gets you into the flow of that you need to complete something at 100%.
I agree. And then at that point, go for it. That's totally fine. I had a nice long stretch of work that I did earlier today. And I wasn't planning on that, but it did happen, and I went with it because I felt good, you know?
Yeah.
Go for it. I think that Nothing wrong with that, but don't pressure yourself to do it.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of flexibility in that too. Like work on it for an hour, and I think Alexis is talking about working from home. I know Alexis personally; she's my stepdaughter, but so she's talking about working from home. She's an accounting major, so she's working on accounting type of things. I completely lost my train of thought of what she was saying. Oh, like she's got to put in 6 hours and she's got to sit there and do 6 hours worth of work. But you can take those 5-minute breaks every once in a while. But sometimes you can have that flexibility where I'm going to work on this for an hour. And if it doesn't happen, I'm going to give myself permission to go switch gears and try a different project. Maybe you're going from, oh, I've got to balance my checkbook and my brain's just not working on numbers today. I'm going to go instead and mow the lawn because it's physical and it's something different. Or I'm going to, again, prioritization is moot. Whether you do the lawn today or the lawn tomorrow is, give yourself that flexibility.
Yeah. The lawn's still going to be there. It's not going anywhere.
Yes, it is. Tanya says, I have to work from home right now. If I don't use timers, I'd be reading every email that pops up or get nothing done at all. That's turn off the email for a while. The same sort of thing. Set that timer for an hour. And trust me, if you start responding to every email the second it comes into your email box, people are going to start expecting you to respond to your email immediately. Email is different than a phone call. And we've all of a sudden started treating email and text messages like phone calls. Phone calls are very rude to me, by the way. Phone calls, somebody calls you, you're in the middle of something, and it would be like somebody coming up and going, answer me, talk to me now. Like the phone's ringing and it's making noise, and I hate it. Like the phone is for urgent business. If you're going to send me a text message or you're going to send me an email, it can wait a half an hour or an hour. Turn off your email, turn off your alerts, and get some stuff done.
Yeah, I agree. I have to do that same thing because otherwise forget it. And I do not respond right away. Just don't. Try to make it a habit of at least letting a little bit of time go by no matter what.
Let it breathe. Yeah.
Yes. It's important because you're correct. People right now are expecting you to reply instantly. I've already had some people get a little bit edgy with me because I haven't responded immediately and they know I'm at home.
Right.
And I think people forget that even though you're at home, you still have obligations. You still might have grad school work. I have meetings for grad school that are all online. So I can't be talking to people all at the same time. And there's deadlines and there's projects and whatnot, but
my wife the other day, we've been going for a walk at her lunchtime. She has a lunch break from 12 to 12:30. And it was like 12:38. And she's like, I got to get back and turn on my Skype. And I'm like, if somebody's trying to Skype you right now and they're not getting you, tell them you were in the bathroom. Like give yourself give yourself the 5 or 10 minute leeway. It's okay.
I agree. Gosh, you can make yourself so anxious about that sort of thing and get in the habit of responding immediately to the point where when you go back to your places of employment, you're going to have a disaster on your hands. And you're going to basically set yourself up into a bad situation because they were used to getting in touch with you immediately.
Right.
Don't allow it now. Bad news.
Yeah. I was going to say something and I completely lost my train of thought. We talked about this right before the podcast, that we both went out and panic bought a little bit, like the day before the panic buying really started. Michael says there's a disorientation many feel from seeing empty shelves at the store. That's what I started feeling. This was like that Thursday before, again, that weekend where everybody panic bought and like the store, there was no toilet paper, and there was that first weekend in March. And I went the Thursday thinking, I got to go now and prepare. That's my hypervigilance. And
me too.
And that's a trauma response, isn't it? Like,
yes,
are we better suited for living in a pandemic? Are we going to be fine when it's the Walking Dead world?
I think we are. I think we're in good shape. No, I remember thinking the same thing. And I had actually been following this in advance. I was aware, when things were happening in China, and I was very concerned. And I had thought about the fact that, people could fly here and it could spread here as well.
Right.
And so that had occurred to me. And then when I started hearing a little bit of a rumor of that happening, I thought, I usually keep what I call mini Sam's Club in my basement at my house. And
Okay.
Mini Sam's Club was not stocked up as well as I liked it to be. That's just my thing.
Yeah.
And so I did restock stuff because I normally would have done that anyway. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I wasn't necessarily thinking to myself, uh-oh. And it was interesting because
That,
my mother had called me, and she is very much like, you've got to prepare, and she'd be all over my case. And I said, relax, I've already been prepared, because I do buy things when there's a deal or something. I do stock up on things because it's a better price or whatever it is.
sure.
So I already had plenty of stuff. But it was weird to go into the stores and see all the toilet paper was gone. And I thought,
Scary.
yeah, I thought, my gosh, what on earth is happening here? Because it really hadn't hit me that this was going to be as bad as it is.
Right.
Because again, I was prepared and I wasn't thinking doom and gloom yet. And it was just a very odd experience to see that. And now when you see the news reports and you see all the people waiting in line to get into the store and how they're only letting a certain number in, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
And I've actually taken to ordering all of my stuff that I might need online because I do not want to deal with it.
We talked about doing that for the first time. Like I want to drive up, have someone load it in my trunk and go away. My big panic attack. So in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've had one panic attack over this. And this was when I was in a Walmart
Yeah.
dealing with people who, again, all things I can't control, people who couldn't keep their own personal space. They weren't keeping their 6 feet, again, the empty shelves, just the desolation and that feeling of despair that was, there were people there in masks and gloves. I saw some guy walking around with those yellow dishwashing gloves on, and he looked like Joseph Mengele walking around. Like it's a scary thing. And I was like you, panic buy was the wrong word, but that Thursday when everything started to come down and it was turning into, the beginning of Night of the Living Dead, like my son was coming home from Buffalo. He's coming home from college. My daughter is being sent home from school. She only goes to Barron, so she's not that far away, but like, it was like, okay, I've got kids coming home, and I bought a cart full of groceries, more than I would normally buy for a week or two. But I stocked up, and people in the store were kind of making fun of me, like, oh, you're stocking up, huh? You're scared of the virus or whatever. I was like, and I played it off. I told one guy, I'm like, I got 5 college kids coming home, or not 5 college kids, like 2 college kids coming home. I'm just stock, and it was just that hypervigilance, that fear that we all sort of live with. Best laid plans of mice and men. Like, I'm going to run out and get what I need and huddle in my hole when I can.
I agree. I have absolutely no desire to go to the store. And when I did make my final trip to the store, I said to myself, this is it. This is the last time you're going to the store, because I'm not dealing with whatever's about to happen. Because if it's going to get as bad as I think it is, then I'm done. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with all of those people. I think it's very risky to do that sort of thing. And I think that if you can find other options, such as like I'm doing, I'm ordering online, or there's the Schwan Man, not a sponsor, right, but
just leave it on the porch. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And if somebody will just bring me my stuff or whatever, and I go to a local farm that gives me my meat and eggs. There are ways to do that without dealing with the crowds, because I do not want to be around the crowds. I don't like crowded spaces as it is.
Right.
That's one of my things, but I really don't like them now. if somebody's going to be in my space, I'm going to have a very tough time with that.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid it. I don't want to place myself in bad situations because that hurts me. So I really think that that's another thing that as you're dealing with this, if you have a hard time with that, you can order food online. It's amazing. And you might have to wait a little bit. So I'd recommend that you order stuff now, but
Right.
it just, the shipping times are taking a little longer, but you will get food. And I wouldn't hesitate to go that route because the stores are so stinking crowded, or to use the curbside pickup thing or
Well, and
whatever.
I don't know how crowded the stores are. Cassandra went today to we have a little grocery store here in Northeast where I live. And she went there and they have one-way aisles and they weren't limiting the number of people in the store, but I think going back to your point about, we live in our headspace. When you see those pictures online and you see the crowds, you're seeing a picture of a line outside the Walmart. You don't know when that was taken. That's not happening maybe right now. That might have been a Walmart in Kentucky that was opening at 6 a.m. for the first time in a week for something else. Like you don't know all these contexts. And when you go in thinking it's going to be crowded, it's going to be dirty, these people are going to invade my space, I'm going to get coronavirus, whatever you're thinking going in, that's what your reality is going to be.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. And I think that's another point here. The media wants to sell you a story. They want you to click on their story.
That's
They
back to
want
Michael's point. Yeah.
Yeah, they want to have all the views they possibly can. It's good for their ratings. So they're not going to show you reality. They're going to show you the most hyped up version of reality. And that's just how it is. Now, for me, one reason again why I'm shopping online instead is also because I have asthma.
Mhm.
And so it could be potentially bad for me, you
Yeah.
know? And so I do try to avoid that situation. But, you know, if it comes down to it and I have to go to the store, fine, I'll go to the store. I just had heard not so great things from people about some of the stores that I would use
Yeah.
and in terms of the crowds. And so as a result, I decided that that was probably not the best option for me. And honestly, it weighed heavily on my mind. That was my whole mindset. My mental narrative got out of hand. And I, didn't want to put myself in that situation. So I figured, why not? I'll just order everything online. It's good.
Yeah. So it's a way to stay out of that situation. Caitlin said she went to Sam's Club today to get things for her elderly grandparents and my pregnant sister. Your sister's pregnant, Caitlin? It wasn't half as bad as I thought. I wore a mask and gloves to protect others. So, and again, she's been shopping in Sanders in Corey, again, a little small hometown store when you can, able to get eggs and milk and bread and those things. And my wife went today for some essentials and, there's food out there. And if you again, to Michael's point about the media, if you read, I just read an article today that, the food, I've seen this several times. Food is out there.
Oh, yeah.
Supplies are out there. People are still panic buying. And
Yeah.
that's when you see these pictures of empty shelves, but they're getting stocked the next night. Things are there. We don't need to panic about that.
I agree. And that's the thing. You're right. I've seen so many people upset, concerned that they're not going to be able to get food for their baby, that they're not going to be able to get diapers, that they're not going to be able to get any toilet paper, that it's nowhere to be found, or cleaning products. And you know what? When I was out at the stores, everything was there. And I know that it's still available because I can order it online. And I know that maybe the stores, they run out of it on their shelves, but they do get more. So I don't think we have a shortage in the sense that it's all gone. Um, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. The panic buying doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
But if you have health issues, maybe shopping online or using curbside pickup is the better route for you. Or if you're just very concerned about that, or you have to take care of somebody else who might have a hard time getting over this, be considerate and try to not go out in public if you can help it.
Yeah. Um, What else can we do? I pulled another article. Let's just go through these and see if we've talked about them. 9
Okay.
ways. This is from Forbes. Maybe it's from, I don't know what it's from. 9 practices to help maintain mental health during the coronavirus lockdown. This is from Alice Walton. Have a routine. That was number 1 on her list. Have a routine. We covered that. Is everybody having a routine? Start an at-home exercise routine. How much do we talk about not having enough time for exercise and how good exercise is for our mental health? And we don't do it.
That's
We
true.
talked about this last time. So my wife and I have started walking. We walk about a half hour a day. It's enough to get her blood flowing. She's never going to be an Uber athlete, and like, but a half hour walk, again, getting out of the house, getting a little sunshine, a little vitamin D and a little fresh air in your lungs is important.
I agree. It's so nice. In fact, um, we have done the same thing and we go out and take our nice little walks, and it's maybe not a very lengthy, strenuous activity, but we're just enjoying it. And I guess in terms of doing anything strenuous, I've been doing yard work. So that's been my
Right.
work. And it's been tedious, really. But
That counts. That
it does.
counts.
It really does. But I do think that that's awesome because there's such a nice boost to your mood.
Yeah.
You get those chemicals flowing, and it definitely makes you feel a lot better. And it takes your mind off of all the chaos.
Here's some research from the journal Environmental Research.
Ooh,
Found that people who spend more time, quote, forest bathing, this was a Japanese
yeah.
study, so they're forest bathing, whatever that means, has reduced the risk for chronic health issues, including reduced risk of coronary heart disease, low blood pressure, lower cholesterol, reduced risk of diabetes, reduced levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, lower heart rate, and reduced all-cause mortality and death from heart disease. And this is what they call forest bathing. It's just going out and sitting in the forest. You don't have to do a physical activity. One mechanism, I love this, is thought to be the chemicals that trees release called phytonicides. Studies have found that people who spend more time in nature have greater activity of immune cells known as natural killer cells. I love that the trees are just giving us what we need.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You don't need the extra, you just get out and get the chemicals.
Yeah. And you know what? If you can't get outside into the woods, even a daily meditation practice gives you a lot of those same benefits.
Yeah.
So it's worth looking into. And you know what? Let me talk about meditation for just a second while we're
Please
at
do.
it.
Oh, you're going to get on your soapbox. Here we go.
I am. I'm so
You got
sorry.
around to it. No, it's okay.
Let me say this. A lot of people have tried meditation in the past, or whatever it might be. They've thought about it, but they thought it was hokey or whatever. Meditation is so beneficial, but you do not see the results immediately. And I think that that's why so many people try it and then they just don't follow through with it because they don't see that it's actually helping them. It takes some time. So here's the thing. If you're going to go outside and you're going to exercise, and we know that that helps strengthen your heart and your immune system and does all kinds of good things for your body, that's strengthening you physically. Meditation strengthens your mind. So what will happen is, even if you did like a 10-minute meditation practice every single day, just get an app. There's many apps that you can just listen to a guided meditation. It's very calming and soothing. If you
go to YouTube and Google 10-minute guided meditation, and there's thousands of them. That's what I do. I go to YouTube.
It's absolutely wonderful. So if you just do that, eventually what you will start to notice, and everybody's a little different in terms of how long it will take, but eventually you will have this ability to not be so reactive. And so what I mean is, when a crisis comes up, or somebody says something very negative to you, or whatever it might be that triggers you into a whole different mood, you will be slow at going that route. You will stop, you will think about it, and then you'll choose wisely instead of suddenly reacting to it
or more wisely than you would have otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Meditation isn't going to make you make all the right decisions every time, but
no,
it'll be a more informed decision. It'll be a more intentional decision.
And it benefits your body in so many physical ways, much like the tree bathing, the forest bathing.
I like forest bathing better. I'm going to go
I
out.
think it's awesome.
Yeah, meditation is definitely on this list, or just breathe. If meditation isn't for you, just breathing slowly might. Um, yeah, meditation. I've not gotten good at I've not gotten good at it. I've not
But
gotten
that's
good
the
at it.
problem. You're
But I'm
trying
not
to get
practicing. I'm
good.
not doing a daily practice. I'll
Yeah.
tell you when I did get good at it, and it's not good. I guess there is no good. There's either do or do not, right?
Listen to you.
They,
Okay, first
they,
off, you're ripping yourself to shreds right now.
totally, totally.
That's part of your problem though with the meditation because you're trying to do meditation well. There
Right.
is no good or bad.
There is no good. That's
All
exactly
you're
what.
going to do is just sit there and listen to the sounds that are on your meditation and just observe. It slows down your brain. It's
Right.
so good for your brain. It's literally, it's like an oil change for your brain.
Ooh,
It really is.
I have 3,000 miles on my brain. I need an oil
Ooh,
change.
you
I
do.
need an oil change.
Yeah.
So how about decluttering your home?
Uh,
Declutter your home.
well, yeah, that helps you to relieve stress right there. When you have a
Absolutely.
cluttered home, they've already proven that a cluttered home increases your stress levels significantly.
For sure. For sure. And inspiration Netflix, KonMari. Have you watched the KonMari lady? It's called, what's her name? Marie Kondo. And she's a little Japanese lady, and she wrote a book called I think the book is called Tidying Up, and or maybe the TV show is called Tidying Up. I'm not sure if the book is called Tidying Up, but it's about decluttering your home and in turn decluttering your life. And you start by decluttering your clothing, and then you move on to books, and you move on to, you know, like she's got this sort of step-by-step decluttering, but just clearing that clutter from your house can help you clear the clutter from your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's such a good thing to do right now. You've got plenty of time and it's an easy situation.
Yeah.
But start small.
Right. Oh yes. With everything, start
Overwhelmed.
small. Um, Maintain community and social connection. That's hard to do.
No, look, we're on Zoom
Well,
right now.
it's not hard to do. It's I shouldn't say it's hard to do. It takes a little extra effort in this time and place.
I think that it takes a lot more effort for people who are not comfortable with social media or Zoom, some of the platforms where we can communicate. You know, it's a challenge, but I think that there's almost,
But
and this might be
you can pick up a phone.
you
Phone.
can, but the phone is old news. Sorry, Ken. No, I guess what we
Not that
need.
much older than you, am I? Oh, okay. All right.
So I think that we're going to move along from that question. But
How old are you? What's your birthday and your
let's not
social
talk
security?
about that. I'm permanently 25. Anyway, I think it's one of those situations where we need to see people and we need to see the visuals. We need to see, I need
Yeah.
to see your smile. You know, even though I can hear the smile in your voice if I talk to you on the phone, it's not the same. Right now, we're able to see each other and communicate. It's a lot nicer. There's more, well, let's put it this way. It's very much like if you text somebody, sometimes you can get the wrong idea
Oh, yeah.
about what somebody's saying, right? And so here, this is nice because it's very fluid. I can just speak to you and I can see your face. I can get your reaction to what I'm saying and know that I should stop talking. And so,
My lizard brain right now is going, okay, she's watching me. Look
right?
interested. Look interested.
Very
Pretend
nice.
you heard everything I said.
Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Um, be of service from a distance. We talked about this a little bit. Make some masks.
Yeah.
Go, you know, if um you know, if I feel good about, you know, if you're going out to eat, if you don't have food at home, and you go support a local business, go get some takeout from your favorite place.
Absolutely. You know, there's a
Support your
lot of places that are delivering too, that you can, you know, support them that way and they'll bring it to you and
right.
it's minimal contact. So, you know, I feel like things like that are safe.
Yeah.
Something
I
else
like.
I'm doing in terms of supporting, I signed up to do the pancreatic cancer walk that is normally held in Pittsburgh. They're doing it all virtually.
How
And so,
great.
yeah, so I'm able to sign up to do a walk that I'll do at my house or wherever,
Around the
and
neighborhood.
right around the neighborhood, and still support a really good cause. And so there's lots of things out there like that where you can contribute, even if you make a small donation to somebody, to somebody's event, or, look at the animal shelters, help them out. They don't have people showing up to adopt right now, and
Right.
they need help, so you could support them.
Yeah. A couple of questions that have come in since I checked last. What are some, well, let's do this one first from Morgan. I've been having a hard time reaching out to others because I fear burdening others. For some reason, asking someone to take time to message or call me is something I haven't had the strength to do. Any suggestions for Morgan?
Yeah, that's very much like the guilt that you had expressed that you feel.
Yeah.
That's something that there's an underlying issue there. All right. And sometimes it's just simply that you're more of an introverted person and it's not your style to reach out to somebody. But I'm concerned because she says she feels burden, like she's a burden.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that that's an issue to work on in terms of her own personal view of herself, because I'm sure she's a lovely, wonderful person, and
She is.
she needs to find her people that understand. So you understand that she's a wonderful, supportive, kind person, and you could, talk with her, or support her by showing her, hey, I know this person who is very much like you. Or she can connect with some of her friends on Facebook. And a lot of people right now are willing to talk more than they ever did before. I've had some great conversations with some people that I usually don't talk to very much, just because I think everybody is looking for some sort of source of communication.
Yeah.
Morgan, get in touch with me. I'll chat with you. And it's just, there's more people willing to sit there and listen and have the time to listen. And I think that's part of the problem. We've been living in such a busy society where people don't have the time to connect. And I know personally, you have a cat or a dog.
This is Jarvis.
Hi, Jarvis. I love it.
Decided to come visit. Go away.
But I know personally that when you're so busy, for instance, me with grad school, I wasn't connecting very much with many of my friends, and the majority of them do understand that. They know that I have very limited time, all right, and too much work. And so now we are all in this boat for the most part, unless you're working as an essential employee, that we have this different schedule now, and people are able to reach out and want to reach out and talk. And I would just say that it's important for Morgan to understand that her own well-being is dependent on having some sort of a good connection, and that it doesn't hurt to reach out to somebody and just say, hey, I thought I'd check in and see how you're doing. Because that's a very kind, nice, normal thing to do right now. Or say, I was just thinking about you and I just wanted to reach out. I haven't talked to you in a long time.
I did that last weekend. Maybe I reached out to 3 or 4 people that I just hadn't talked to in a while and hadn't reached out. And it was just how you holding up through all of this. And it wasn't even the conversation that made me feel better. It was me reaching out made me feel better. It wasn't even the conversation, like that altruistic, whatever that is, that feeling that comes up inside us. I'm terrible with emotions. Can you tell? I was like, I felt good about myself for reaching out to others in addition to making others feel good.
I agree. I think that that's so important. So, Morgan's not being a burden by reaching out to anybody, people want to hear from you. And honestly, think about this. If somebody views you as being a burden because you reach out and talk to them, do you want them as your friend anyway?
Right.
Honestly, I think that would be a very cruel thing. And I would definitely eliminate that person from my life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think probably in her case, it's definitely a perceived thing. Um, there's already been you said, go ahead and message me. There's been an outpouring of support on the chat room for her too, like
Ah,
saying, go ahead and message me if you want.
wonderful. And see, that just proves it right there that people are interested in talking. They're excited to help. And nobody wants, a truly kind person doesn't want somebody else to suffer that way and doesn't want you to feel bad or feel like you're a burden.
Right.
Gosh, I wouldn't think that about anybody that would reach out and talk to me. I wouldn't sit there and think, oh my gosh, this person's such a burden, except for you, Ken.
Right. Well, I am a burden. I'm a
You are.
terrible, horrible burden, and the world would be better off without me.
Absolutely.
Yes.
No. Wrong.
I know that's not true. I know. You've seen me fall into my patterns of thought, though. You've seen that.
I have.
Rotten, miserable therapist. You've tricked me. You've tricked me somehow, fooled
I'm
me
so
into
sorry.
giving away all of my secrets. Um, Here's a question from Jessica. What are some tips for overcoming mental fatigue at the end of the workday to motivate ourselves to move more? I can walk at lunchtime, no problem, but at the end of the day, I feel like a slug. I
Mm.
think I think we touched on this a little bit. My advice would be, again, sort of schedule that time at 4 o'clock when I'm done working. I'm going to do this for an hour, sort of whether I feel like it or not, because in that hour, you may end up feeling like doing it. And even if you're going out and walking and it's only a half an hour, it's a half an hour. It's more than you did. There's a couple of things happening there.
I think too that it's important to recognize why you feel that mental fatigue. So, is it simply that you're not getting enough sleep at night? Are you laying in bed stressed? The other issue is, are you doing enough fun, enjoyable things in your life? Are you creating some sort of memories in your life right now? Are you doing activities that you enjoy? Some of us have to find new ways of enjoying life because our lives used to revolve around our social activities.
Right.
And now, we're not
Or
supposed.
even getting up and going to the office.
Right, right, exactly. And so now we have to change things and find new ways to be. And it can be fun. That's the thing. I think a lot of people want to view this as a very stressful thing, but it could be fun because you're getting the opportunity to explore new ways of being. So you could go out and forest bathe, like we just talked about. But I think,
Forest bathing is the same as leaf peeping. Leaf
yes,
peeping is a thing that sounds weird, but people do it.
basically go hang out in the woods,
Yeah.
go check it out. But there's a lot of things that you can still do, since we can still be outside and we can still function that way. At least, I mean, it's not like you're confined just to your house.
Right.
But I think that you need to explore exactly what that mental fatigue is, um, because you can have mental fatigue at any point in your life, especially if you're overthinking about your work and you come home and you're still working in your head.
Yeah.
The other thing too
And
is,
that's a can I just make this point real quick? The that there's an inertia to being home. If Jessica's in a situation, which I think she is in a work from home situation, 4 o'clock comes, you're already home, you're already there. There's no clear transition to the next thing.
but you can
And
make a
and
transition.
yeah,
So
creating, yeah, I'm going to put my shoes on and go outside, or I'm going to go into this other room and do this other thing.
simply closing up your laptop and getting up from your desk.
Right.
I'm done. You know, I think too, though, it's important to spend some time during your day thinking about the things that you are grateful for.
Oh,
Because
yes.
right now, and that sounds so cheesy, I get it. Um, but it's okay to be stressed, but it's not okay to ignore happiness. Okay. So there are many good things that are still happening in the world. There are many good things that are happening right at your house. You've got running water, most likely. You've got heat. You've got lights. We've had some beautiful sunshiny days lately.
Right.
The birds are chirping. You're breathing. You're still alive.
You got up and took a shower today,
Absolutely.
celebrating those small goals.
Honestly. And, for someone who maybe achieved at a higher level, you think of the idea of just getting a shower and congratulating yourself as being ridiculous. But honestly, during this period of time, we're all functioning a little differently. And if you can still carry on some sort of a normal routine and still have some sort of self care, you're
Right.
doing an amazing job. And I don't care if that's just getting a shower. That is amazing. And you should feel good about that and totally okay. You don't have to be this incredibly stellar, fantastic person who has everything going for them right now.
Yeah. It's the same, let yourself off the hook for those things. You can look on Facebook and see all these people. I have friends that are writing the great American novel while they're off, right? I'm never going to write a novel. I don't
Me
want
neither.
like, but you see these people living that it's the curse of social media. We see people living their best lives, and I'm struggling to take a shower in the morning. Nobody's posting that on Facebook except me and my friends.
Yeah, yeah, I understand what you're saying. And we did a little bit of that before this entire crisis started happening, where we would compare ourselves to other people on
Yeah.
social media and what's going on in their lives. But remember, those are just the pictures they're choosing to show you. And let's face it, most people choose to show you flattering pictures. They don't want to show you the garbage. They
Right.
don't want to show you the fact that the cat just puked on the floor like
Ugh.
mine does.
Did that just happen? That
It
seems a
sure
little
did. It sure did.
surprisingly specific.
Right? They don't
Well,
want to show you that.
we didn't
But
hear it over Zoom, so
a very good thing, because it was quite unpleasant. But anyway, they don't want to show you that. You don't know what's
right.
actually going on in somebody's life. So, you see the picture of the mom of the year right now who's homeschooling her kids and
Right.
making beautiful projects and crafts and stuff. And then there's the mom who's sitting at home who's like, I've never done a craft in my life, but I'm a damn good accountant. And what am I supposed to do now? Because my kids aren't getting to make these perfect crafts from Pinterest.
Right.
And you know what? That's not fair to do that, because we all have our own good skills. We all have our own abilities. And that person's only showing you one small aspect of their life. That could be the only thing they're good at. The rest of their life might be
It
complete
is a
garbage.
disaster.
Right? And honestly, everybody's dealing with something. It's
Yeah.
funny how we get it in our heads that, oh my gosh, woe is me. Why is it that my life is
I'm
garbage and
I'm
everybody
the
else is
I'm the
great?
only one feeling this way. I'm the only
Right,
one with
right.
these troubles. I'm the only one.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what I'm trying to do here is remind people that they're not the only one.
exactly. We're all going through this and we're all dealing in our own way that suits our personality. My way of coping is reading and laughing my butt off at all the crazy memes that are all over the place on Facebook. We got the tiger guy happening, and we've got
Yeah.
all the
I've not watched that. I didn't that's not my thing.
it's not my thing either. And I'll tell you what, I don't like it, but I watched it because it was forced upon me. And so I
Reality
watched it.
TV is not my thing. Many years ago I watched The Amazing Race. That was my favorite reality TV show. Have you ever watched
Yeah.
that one? It's
Yeah.
teams of two and they race around the world, and I love that. And I found it on Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever, and I put on a season, and watching these people and their clear dysfunction in their relationships, and it's always, they always have one couple. It's the couple that's supposed to get married, and they hate each other. They're screaming at each other the whole time, and people being mean to each other and pushing each other out of the way. I watched 2 episodes. I couldn't watch it anymore. Something about reality TV, like just people being awful to each other, which happens on reality TV a lot.
Yeah.
I can't watch it anymore.
I don't like that sort of thing either. When it's, what is it, like Maury Povich?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
When it's like that, uh, too much drama, if in a very
Right.
bad, unpleasant way and very uncivilized. mm, I don't like it either. It goes against the grains, you know? And
Yeah.
so it doesn't work so well for me. It frustrates me.
But I think it has that same thing, even the non-drama. Well, I guess they all have drama. They have to be a TV show.
Yeah.
But like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, I've never watched it. I don't know what it's like, but it's people just it's not real emotions. It's not real. It's people showing it's the social media trap. It's people showing the best parts of their lives.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to believe that my life is supposed to be like the Kardashians somehow.
Right.
It's an ugly thing.
I agree. It totally messes with your mind. It makes you think that you should have all of the things that these people have, that you should be all of the things that these people are. Yes,
Showing you. I pulled this out. We haven't had a chance to talk about it, and I don't
I'm so
know. We'll
glad you
do
got
this.
it.
We'll do it again in a couple of weeks, and we'll do a book club. How about that?
Sounds great.
But it's the idea that happiness is this construct that you're never going to get to.
Yeah. It's a
And
wonderful, wonderful
happiness
book.
is what you define it as, rather
Yeah.
than some magic thing to strive toward.
You should definitely post that on your Facebook page for everybody to be able to get a copy of that book,
I
because
will.
yeah, it is super, super helpful and very insightful. There's a lot to learn. And it's something, even if you read it in small little bits, there's a
Mhm.
lot to learn in there. A lot
And
of really great techniques.
it's an easy read too.
Oh
It's
yeah.
an easy read. Well, we'll do this in a couple of weeks. We'll do another group therapy session, and
Yeah,
we'll talk about that. How's that sound?
that sounds
Um,
good.
Thank you so much for doing this. This has been great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, we actually had people watching. Thank you to all the people that watched and commented, and this was cool. This was fun.
I
So
agree.
I'm surprised it worked. I want to read one thing as we go away. You love memes, and I love reading memes on the radio. I don't know if you posted this or somebody else posted this, but I thought this was a good way to go out. Look how much you've already managed to adapt to. Look how resilient you've already been. There's no right way to respond to this because it's never, ever happened before. Give yourself some credit. There's no one in the whole world who's figured this out yet. So it's absolutely okay if you don't either.
Excellent.
And I didn't write that. Somebody named Mellow Doodles did. So Mellow Doodles just summarized everything we've talked about for the last 90 minutes. Thanks,
That's
Keri.
awesome.
Thank you so much for doing this. This was cool.
Absolutely. You're welcome. My pleasure.
It's so nice to see you.
Likewise. I hope you stay well.
Thanks. Oops. Now I lost the thing. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We'll edit this part out. How do I turn it off? I don't know how to turn it off. I'll figure out how to turn it off, and I'll say goodbye to you now if I lose you.
Sounds
Bye,
good.
everybody.
See ya.
Thank you. Stop recording. I stopped the recording.